have almost 20,000 primos. The modest wish for just C2 Kuki, and I really do not want more Ito cons because C4 kinda... You gotta be
It's showtime!
Look, I love Ito. I love Ito a lot, but his C4 makes me want to lay on the beach and let the tide take me. But I do want to be here for Hyzo, so instead, I'll just update my worst constellations list. Opinions have changed, some for better or for worse, and we've got a lot of new characters in set, some of which don't exactly have the best cons. No C3s or C5s on this list, only one con per character, and most importantly, they will be judged on how hard they are to get. That means that a okay C6 is so much worse than a bad C1. Look, a C6 costs like $1,000 or more depending on your country, so they better be good. Number 10, C4 Ito. I've obviously been burned by C4 Ito, unlike a lot of the things I'm going to feature on this list. There's something comforting about a character having bad constellations, especially when they're the later ones, because you don't feel bad about just owning C0. Well, that was my thought exactly about Ito C4. It's not bad. It's also not great, particularly for a C4. That's really expensive. Ito C4 is what I would consider an okay constellation for a C1. At least in the context of a limited 5-star. 20% attack and defense is a respectable buff. However, this only affects Ito's second rotation and onward. In the context of one of Ito's best team comps, which is Ito, Goro, Albedo, and Zhongli, the attack part of the buff only benefits Ito and Zhongli, at least when you're doing the rotation right and not doing Albedo's burst. 20% defense is an okay buff and it affects everybody but Zhongli that's on this team. However, the main issue comes in is it only really kicks in after the first rotation. So the small benefit you get from this constellation only works if things live past the first rotation. So the higher you invest into your Ito, the less likely this is to happen. Cap that off with the fact that C4 is only roughly a 5% DPS increase over C3, and it's not a very impressive constellation. Number 9, C6 Child. I actually didn't even include this on my first list, and it might have been because of personal bias. It does sound relatively fun to have. However, it has the major drawback of to actually utilize this constellation, you kind of have to play Child wrong. Okay, not so much wrong, but just not in the typical way that he's played in his best team comps, where it's usually his range burst getting used and not the melee. Most of Child's team comps already have a very set in stone rotation that takes into account the cooldown that Child already has. The cooldown that Child has in those team comps is when you actually use your support's abilities, their bursts, give them energy, whatever you need to do, so bypassing the cooldown entirely has very little benefit in his best comps. Number 8, C6 Kaching. Have I talked poorly about Kaching's constellations enough? The answer is no. No, I have not. So this poor-ass imitation of a 5-stars constellation is a 8.4% DPS increase over C5. That means that the number of the constellation is almost as high as the damage increase that it offers. It's not even fun. It doesn't change anything except your damage slightly. That's all I'm saying. Number 7, C6 Mona. When Mona's on a team, she is a support that doesn't spend much time on field. Now sure, you could just make her the DPS in your team, play off meta, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you do that, kudos to you. I'm glad you're having fun. But to spend up to 3 seconds not fighting and building up damage bonus on a charge attack, it leaves this constellation feeling very gimmicky. It certainly falls in the fun category. You know, you want to play Mona as a DPS and you want to occasionally see a big vape numby. But spending 3 seconds doing nothing is actively hurting your DPS to give you a small DPS increase, so this isn't pure gain. In the same way that we don't use Albedo's burst because it's simply not worth the time it takes to cast, I gotta imagine that even in the context of DPS Mona, this constellation would feel very much the same thing. It's possible that someday, maybe there might be some kind of use for this, but honestly, I don't think we'll ever see that. I think it's just a gimmick, just for fun, and there's nothing wrong with that. Number 6, C6 Kokomi. It's kind of funny because people used to think Kokomi was irredeemable garbage, and back then I defended her, saying no, she's pretty good, she has a place, and now I honestly think people are going too far in the opposite direction where they think she's way better than she actually is, particularly in the damage department. Here's the deal, she's got a very high damage floor, but in the context of the meta and the entire cast, her damage ceiling is extraordinarily low, and therein lies the problem with Kokomi's constellations, particularly her C6. While when you look at aspects of Kokomi's kit, it might look like she's intended to be a kind of damage dealer hybrid, and well, she is. On many characters, a 40% hydro damage bonus wouldn't be that bad, but on Kokomi, it's only making her already low personal damage a little bit higher. It's not actually going to add that much DPS to your team, which is ultimately what makes it an underwhelming constellation, especially for a C6. Number 5, C4 Albedo. The main use of this constellation is going to come from pairing Xiao and Albedo together, or if you're playing a Dragon Strike comp, which sure, has some validity, but it is kind of a gimmick, albeit a good gimmick. But let's go back to Xiao, because that's going to be the main use. A 30% plunge damage increase is a pretty respectable buff. And given that its only real sacrifice that you need is about $1,000, which, yeah, that's a lot. You'd think it'd be a little bit better, but here is the problem. Xiao already gets a lot of percent damage increases from his own kit, so adding another little bit on top of that, not as beneficial as you would hope. So having a limited character C4 that only minorly benefits yet another limited character, well, that makes it a pretty bad constellation if you ask me. Number 4, C6 Gene. Yes, you can use C6 Gene in conjunction with other damage reduction methods to get insanely high damage reduction, or you can hold it with Zhongli. Jokes aside, having damage reduction on one of what is already one of the most potent healers in the entire game just isn't that valuable. We don't have many sources of damage that are so large that we're actually in danger of being one-shot, you know, outside of like some gimmicky weekly boss mechanics, but right now, no regular enemies that we see in the Abyss are actually threatening us with this. So it's just not very good for now, but it does have potential in the future. Number 3, C4 Xiao. I don't think many people would ever really be excited to see a constellation that increases defense on a DPS character that doesn't even scale off defense. Yes, Xiao is a rather reckless character. He decreases his own health on his own over time, and plunging in one spot repeatedly is a very dangerous playstyle that without a shield can lead you to taking a lot of damage and just dropping like a sack of bricks. Given the limited ways we have to increase a character like Xiao's damage with other characters, combined with the fact that he hurts himself, we often see him paired with Zhongli, you know, our best shielder. And it's having Zhongli there that just pretty much invalidates this C4 altogether. Xiao is one of those characters that's often recommended that you either be C0 or C6, nothing in between. Having to get through this C4, or God forbid stopping on it, is a really sad prospect. Number 2, C6 Zhongli. Yeah, that's right. If you saw my last list, I moved him up considerably. And there were a lot of comments about corrosion this, blah, 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 corrosion. What about corrosion? Or just people who thought it's way better than it is and just thought I was a dum-dum. So once more, but with feeling, let me try to explain this as clearly and concisely as possible. This is Zhongli. This is his thick shield. Let's say your Zhongli has about as much health as mine, which is about 36,500, with a Geo Cup and a crit hat. With his talent at level 13, which is what you'll have if you have a C6 by the way, his shield should have a value of roughly 13,317. On top of that, it's a Geo Shield, so it absorbs everything more effectively. Whoa, what's this? Oh, you also have C2 because you need that to get a C6. So now you have 2 of these shields, both of which being 12-second cooldowns on a 20-second duration shield. Whoa, what's this? Something else is coming. It's a C4, petrifying things for 6 goddamn seconds every 12 seconds. And it's not hard to get his energy back. It's really easy. Nothing in this game warrants this much damage mitigation and shielding. Everything that comes before the C6, including his base kit, invalidates the C6. If you're taking damage with a C6 Zhongli outside of corrosion, that's not the kit's fault. That is you being careless, not refreshing your shield enough, or just letting it drop completely. Not to mention Hu Tao doesn't really appreciate the healing very much, and they are a very common pairing. And then there's corrosion. Right now, at present, corrosion is not really a mechanic worth even considering. There's never enough of it to threaten our lives, even if Zhongli is your only defensive character in your party. The shielding will mitigate all the flat damage you would take, and you can just take the corrosion to your health because your health is a resource that isn't getting spent. I think at its core, it can be a decent constellation. It certainly has a lot of potential, especially with future content, maybe more shield piercing mechanics, more corrosion, maybe a shield breaker, who knows. It's just right now, at present, I think it's a very bad constellation that's not worth pulling for because the rest of the kit just does so good at making it not necessary. And you gotta remember, C6 is whale shit, and when you're a whale, you're likely doing more damage than other players, and the more damage you do, the less things are alive, and the less things are alive, the less chance they even get to deal damage to you. So C6 only is really just, it's so overkill, it's unnecessary. But what is necessary is today's sponsor. If you're like me, this right here is a situation that you are all too familiar with. As somebody who's lived in Canada my entire life, this is something I have grown used to. It's incredibly common for services to not be available here. Holy, oh my god, it's the solution to the problem. NordVPN is a VPN that allows you to access over 5,500 servers in 59 countries across the world, which will allow you to make geo-blocking a thing of the past. Whether you want to access another country's Netflix, get an entirely new streaming service that was never available to you in the first place, or even access games and betas that aren't available in your country yet. And this is on top of all the privacy and encryption that NordVPN offers as well. Not to mention it works on every device, including Android TV. All that without even slowing down your connection, thanks to NordVPN's blazing fast speeds. So head over to nordvpn.com/Rathale by using my link in the description below to get a 2-year plan plus an additional month, all for a huge discount. There's even a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's literally no risk. Just like when you use NordVPN to browse the internet. Number 1, just as it used to be, it's Qiqi C6. For more or less all the reasons I said about Zhongli, just, less about the constellations because I think all of Qiqi's constellations are very weak, but Qiqi's base kit has so much damn healing that if your party members or your co-op teammates are dying, it's not necessarily Qiqi's fault. I crap on Qiqi a lot. I think she's a terrible character, but it's not because she can't heal. She can heal. She can heal better than basically anybody. Often when people defend Qiqi, her powerful healing is something that comes up, but if she has such powerful healing, which she does, why would a C6 res be considered good, especially when it's attached to her burst? Every party member or co-op teammate that's dead makes it that much harder for Qiqi to get her burst back because she can't generate her own energy with her skill. So in my opinion, just makes it a really bad constellation, especially for a C6. I just want to say that if you love these characters, if you want to pull for these cons anyway, do it. If it's fun to you, that's all that matters. Sure, they might be bad, but some of them might be fun, and sometimes you just might like a character so much that you want them to be as best as they could possibly be, even if that means only getting a few % damage increase. And some of them might even be good later. This is judged in the context of Genshin Impact as we know it today in version 2.7. Once again, a big thank you to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. Check out my socials below, where you can check out my Discord, Patreon, YouTube membership, and anything else you want. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.